Our Law and Justice segment tonight, the violent street gang MS-13 may have finally met their match. The Trump administration has made MS-13, known for their human trafficking, drug dealing, and murder, their public enemy #1. It's not pleasant for them anymore, said President Trump. Attorney General Jeff Sessions said the U.S. Department of Justice is coming after them. Take a look.
The MS-13 motto is kill, rape, and control. That's their motto. Our motto is going to be justice for victims and consequences for criminals. That's what we're going to do. That's how simple it is. We will prosecute gang members who commit crimes to the fullest extent of the law, and after they've been convicted, if they're not here lawfully, they're going to be deported. So I have a message for the gangs that target our young people. We are targeting you. We're coming after you.
Joining me now, author of The Truth Behind the Black Lives Matter Movement and the War on Police, law enforcement expert for the U.S. Department of Justice and the U.S. Attorney General, Dr. Ron Martinelli. Dr. Ron, good to see you.
Good to see you, and welcome back to the viewers.
Thank you, thank you. All right, Dr. Ron, let me ask you, MS-13, this is the gang that other gangs fear. This gang is bad news. They take pride in their violence. It's gratuitous violence. Should they be labeled a terror organization?
Well, I don't know if, under the standards we have, a terror organization, but there's certainly a serious threat to our national security and, of course, to the security of all of our citizens. Very violent group made up of youthful sociopathic members that have aligned themselves, actually started in California and aligned themselves with the Mexican mafia and extend down into Mexico, where they formed alliances. And basically, they're the gophers for the Zeta and drug cartel and the Sinaloa drug cartel, and they extend all the way down into Central America, where we look at the triangle of Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador.
Right. So talk to me a little bit, I guess, about what sets this gang apart, because when you research about this gang, it seems that they don't have a lot of central organization, that it is more cliques or pockets of this gang, but they are known for their violence. Is what sets them apart the fact that violence sometimes seems to be their goal? It's not simply the medium to achieve their goal?
Well, I think a couple of things set them apart. They are a decentralized but large street gang. They are transnational, so not only throughout the United States, but as we just discussed, down in Mexico and Central America. But for me, who's worked gangs for many, many years, their alliances with the very violent, prison gang and narcotics trafficking organization, Mexican mafia, and also even more dangerous with the Zeta and the Sinaloa drug cartels. That, to me, is what really sets them apart from regular street gangs. And then obviously the level of violence. Killed hundreds in the United States, and the majority are young people and young adults, teens and young adults.
Right. So is this why then that President Trump and the U.S. Department of Justice, Attorney General Jeff Sessions, is this why they picked this gang to name by name and say, hey, we're coming after you specifically?
Yes, I think so. I don't want to speak for the Attorney General, but I certainly see where the Trump administration is going, very pro-law enforcement. And it's really, to be honest with the viewers, it's about time that we become more proactive in our enforcement of these violent gangs and try to mitigate, if not put a stop to this gang activity.
Right, and I think part of this too, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but part of the reason that this gang was singled out by the Department of Justice, by President Trump's Department of Justice, is because this has sort of an immigration aspect to it. President Trump has told us the last year and a half on the campaign trail, then after he won the election, after he was sworn in, what a danger our borders being open are. What a danger it is to allow people into our country when we haven't vetted them, that it's not just people seeking economic opportunity, it's some people that are attached to violent gangs, whether they're drug cartels, whether they're simply criminals, or whether they're very, very violent like this gang. And this gang, specifically MS-13, they've exploited, they've abused the unaccompanied minor refugee program in order to get their gang members into our country.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I think that's the central issue here. And, wrote an article on my forensic site, drronmartinelli.com, basically refuting what some of the people in the media and the so-called pundits are saying, that illegal aliens don't commit a disproportionate level of crime, because that's just simply not true. When you think of the fewer numbers than the regular population of the citizenry of the United States, and you take a look at the types of crimes they commit, it really in many areas is disproportionate. And this particular gang, the vast majority of them have abused the process and are illegal aliens, and they came in exactly as you said, and they're creating a significant threat to this nation's national security.
Right, I think those exact numbers are illegal immigrants are around 3.5% of the population in the United States, but the crime rate of illegal immigrants is around 13.6%.
Correct.
Which is obviously hugely disproportionate here. And I mean, this gang does prove that point again, not just immigration violations here, but the way that they fund their organization, because they are decentralized, because they don't have that money coming down from above. I mean, they do human trafficking, they do sex trafficking, they do kidnapping, they do extortion, just these awful, violent, atrocious crimes.
Right, exactly right. And again, look at the funding sources, and that, of course, exacerbates the level of violence, because the more violent they can become, the more entrenched they can form their alliances with these multinational drug cartels and our prison gang here in California and in the Southwest, the Mexican Mafia, the worse this gang becomes. And Attorney General Jeff Sessions and President Trump are making a concerted effort to put a stop to this level of violence.
Right, and talk to me for just a second as someone who is a law enforcement expert for the Department of Justice here. When you look at this underground economy, because I think that's what it is in a sense, when you talk about human trafficking, sex trafficking, extortion, kidnapping, it creates sort of a black market for these things. These crimes have value. How do you actually go about breaking that up? Because it's not easy.
Well, it depends on the sophistication of the gang and the organization that you're dealing with. So with cartels and large criminal enterprises, we handle them differently. We look at RICO violations, things like that. But it's all about intelligence gathering. With smaller gangs, and of course, like regular street gangs, they're very dysfunctional. We try to look at the hierarchy of the gang. If they have a hierarchy, most of them are just rudimentary, but we try to take out the leaders of this gang and the middle level members of the gang, and then the gang tends to implode because there's no one except for those in the lower ranks of the gang that can step up. And that's how basically one of the ways that you destroy a gang.
Right, and hopefully, I mean, I wish you all at the Department of Justice much success in this. It puts our lives in danger the longer that MS-13 is roaming the streets of our country. Dr. Ron Martinelli, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me back on.